Hi, today we'll be styling and laying out our web page, our Moby Dick web page, using Dreamweaver. But before we get started, I'd just like to say again and again that the most important thing that you do when you're working in Dreamweaver is to define your site before you do anything, or double check your site definition, because if you move a site from one computer to another, you'll have to reset your site definition. So the way you do that, I'm just going to double check this one because I already have the site defined. The way you do that is, well, there's a lot of ways, of course, because it's Dreamweaver, but I usually just go up to the menu, Site, Manage Sites, since I'm double checking. And it looks like I do have a site defined for this. This is my site. So I'm going to double click on that and make sure everything is as I expect it to be. So when I double click on it, I see the site setup dialog box, and it shows me the site's name, and it shows me the site's local folder, the root folder for the site. And that means where we're working here on this site. And it says that I'm in a folder on the desktop called Moby DW. And that's what I expect, because that's in fact where I'm working. I'm working in a folder on my desktop called Moby_DW. And now I'm going to check the images folder. But to do that, I'm going to click in the left-hand column on Advanced Settings, and if local info isn't selected, I'll select it. And then I'm just going to look at this first line, and it shows me that my default images folder is this images folder inside that Moby_DW folder on my desktop. And that's exactly what I expect. I'm not going to worry about the rest of the things down here. And so I'm going to click Save. I'm going to click Done. And so we can move along with creating our site. The page we're starting with is this page. I'll show you in the browser what it looks like. It's just a bare bones web page. This is what it looks like in the browser, and this is what it looks like, the code looks like. It has an H1, well, it has all the parts that you need of an HTML page, including a page title called Moby Dick Chapter 1. This is where that appears in the browser. It has an H1 element, Chapter 1 Loomings. It has an image, the image of the white whale logo. It has a few paragraphs. It has an H2 element, an H2 heading, and then it has an unordered list with 4 items in it, and 3 of the items are linked to other pages in the site. And what we'll be doing is use Dreamweaver to turn it into a page that looks like this. You'll notice that the whole thing is 600 pixels wide, and the heading is 175 pixels tall, and it has a pink background. You can make yours whatever we want when we get to that, whatever you want when you get to that point. It's laid out as many websites are laid out, with a sidebar on the left-hand side and a main content area over in the right. And it all fits inside a 600 pixel wide wrapper element that is centered horizontally in the browser window when you're using it in a browser window. It also has sans serif fonts, and it has, you can't see this while on this PDF picture of the site, but these are CSS generated links that will change color when you roll over them. They'll have hover states, in other words. So this is where we're going with this web page. And here's an overview of how we're going to do it. We're going to divide up the HTML into div block containers. There'll be a container for the header, and there will be a container for the sidebar, that's the stuff down here, and there will be a div container for the main content. And then we're going to use Dreamweaver to create CSS to style that content and lay it out. And usually what I do when I start working on this portion of designing a web page as I sketch it out, so I kind of know where I'm going with it. And here's a picture of a sketch that I made. I wrote down that the header will be 600 pixels by 175 pixels. And I wrote down the 250 pixel width of the sidebar and the 350 pixel width of the main content area. I'm not going to worry about the height of these areas down here because they'll take their height from the content inside them. So all I really need to think too much about is the width. And so once I have that sketched out, it'll help me when I start creating the CSS to style those div blocks. But before we create the CSS, we have to create those div blocks. We'll do that in the next movie.